Hello, how are you? Welcome. It is time. We are now live, and we'll be getting started in just a few minutes here with our Cooking Up a Conversation series with Mary Angela. That would be me, as part of the Mediterranean Diet Live Roundtable. Now, our goal with this series, as many of you know who've tuned in the first few weeks, is to help make the Mediterranean diet accessible for everyone. And we're doing that by taking the top Mediterranean cookbooks, and we're talking with the authors. And week one, we started at the beginning with Bryn McDowell, who was the domestic dietitian. Week two, we had the godmother of the Mediterranean diet, Nancy Harmon Jenkins. Week three, we had the encyclopedia of what I would call it, the Mediterranean diet. And we had 12 pillars with Chef Maria Loy. But today is going to be so much fun because we have the kitchen gypsy. We have James Beard, award-winning chef Joanne Weir, who has traveled all over the world with her food. But in our back and forth this week, Joanne told me that this is the part of the world that speaks to her, and it's calling to you now. Welcome, Joanne.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here because the Mediterranean is a place that really sings to me. It calls me. It's just so much a part of my whole life. And I've been on the Mediterranean diet. I was just saying this since 1985 when I started working at Chez Panisse. So wonderful. Yeah, I love the food from there.
And we're going to talk about, you have many, many cookbooks, but we're going to talk about your very first one. From tapas to meze, right?
And we both have it here.
That's right. So this is the one that we cooked, or I cooked, 3 recipes from over the last 2 weeks. And I have to tell you, one of the things that, the reason I do this is, one, I'm a registered dietitian, so I look at it from that perspective, but I'm not that great of a cook, but I love good food, okay? So I use this as every book I have a goal. But I was a little intimidated because not only is it a great cookbook, and are you a great chef, but this is a cookbook that other chefs love. And I'm like, whoa, is this going to be something I can do? But, how did you start with this one?
Well, it was interesting because when I was working at Chez Panisse, I really saw that, writing a book called From Tapas to Meze, it's all small plates. And when I was working at Chez Panisse, I really got interested. I was working in the first courses and salads and soups and things like that. And I really looked around the Mediterranean and saw that everyone around the Mediterranean loves to get together with their friends, and they love to have a glass of wine or some sherry or whatever comes from their country, but they'll never, ever drink something or alcoholic without eating something. And so that's what really inspired me. So when you look at a country like Spain, you've got tapas. When you look at France, you've got hors d'oeuvres. When you look at Italy, it's antipasti. And then Greece, Syria, Turkey, Lebanon, Israel, Egypt all use the word meze. And even in Morocco, they have something called mori ballet, or some people, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, even though I spent a lot of time in Morocco, but I think I'm close. And they also love the small plates.
Well, that's really good. Well, we picked it because of this. Many people, at least and I'm here from Columbus, Ohio, right? So you're going to get the Midwestern viewpoint. We think of Mediterranean as Italian and Greek. We don't realize that there are many other cuisines that should be included. And your book has dishes from Spain, from France, from Italy and Greece, which I've mentioned, from Turkey, but also the Middle East and North Africa. And so what we wanted to do today was choose recipes from some of those other countries. And when I mentioned that, I always have a goal for myself, correct? So you used the term, or I saw the term, cooking from the Levant. So I always ask 10 people a question related to what we talk about this week. And 10 out of 10 people this week that I asked randomly in my circle had no idea what I meant when I said, we're cooking from the Levant.
Right.
So that was just a big learning takeaway. Now, I happen to know what the Levant was only because of my friend Jerry White, who's publisher of Plate Magazine. I don't know if you've ever heard of Plate Magazine.
I have heard of it, yes.
Yeah, it's a magazine for chefs. And they did a whole issue last year called Cooking Across the Levant. So I was fortunate to be educated with that. And when I was growing up, my best friend from high school was from Lebanon. So people were trying to say, what is the Levant? Like, is it Lebanon and Egypt, or make an acronym? Really, it's just a region, right? A part of the world.
Right. Yes, it is. So it's really the Eastern Mediterranean. So I'm looking at my book because I love this little map, but it's really Syria, Lebanon, Israel. It's the Eastern Mediterranean, and
Okay.
it's. I mean, the food that comes from there, and you can see so many similarities between them. But I do understand that people, and when I titled the chapter "The Levant," I'm sure many people said, "What is that?" But it's those countries that border the Eastern Mediterranean. And that
All
food
right.
I'm so excited by, but I guess I love all of them. So,
So when I went through and chose recipes, one, I had to choose Spain. So let me tell you why. Because the Mediterranean Diet Roundtable sent me these bottles of
love.
extra virgin olive oil from Spain. And I was like, wow, I'm going to get an education in olive oil. So
Right.
I for sure had to choose a recipe from Spain. And that recipe was called caramelized onion omelette from Andalusia. And what
Right.
amazed me, I said, I wanted to kind of focus on the olive oil. And other than olive oil and salt and pepper, that recipe only has two other ingredients,
Right.
onions and eggs. I thought soup would be the easiest thing to make, but this omelet was literally onions and eggs.
Right. Right. So yes, that is from Spain. And it's really it's called a tortilla. And
Okay.
that's the one you're talking about, right? The
Yes, it
tortilla.
is. Yes.
Yes. I love that recipe. It's almost sweet from those caramelized onions, isn't it?
Mhm.
And
Well,
so easy. It's so easy to make, but I was laughing because before you said the hardest part of that, and it's true, is flipping that. It's a challenge. So what you do is you take a nonstick pan and I caramelize the onions, but then I whisk some eggs together, combine it with the onions, put it back in that pan with a good amount of olive oil. And honestly, I love olive oil so much I could drink it. But anyway, and then you're cooking it almost like an omelet, but you're not. What you do is you put a plate on the top. You have to flip it over and slide it back in. So was it a challenge?
well, let me just say that, yeah, it was a bit of a challenge. I was so careful. So, right, because I want to learn from this. And I think the third ingredient that wasn't listed there is time, because this takes a little patience, because
Right.
you cook the onions for 15 minutes and then you cover them for an hour and 15 minutes. And then you add the eggs and you let them rest for 15 minutes. And then I was doing so well until you had to flip it. And
Right.
there's a reason in the pictures that you only see half the omelet.
Oh, that is so great. Well, one thing you want to do, Mary Angela, one thing you want to do is put a plate on the top. So you invert the plate bigger than the pan. So it's
Okay.
really easy to just slide it back in once you flipped it over. But you do want a plate that's a little bit bigger. And honestly, I was doing that tortilla one time. I'll never forget this, like in front of 50 people or 100 people, I can't remember. And I dropped the whole thing right onto the burner of the stove. So don't feel badly, honestly. But you know what I also want to tell you? There's also another tortilla that they make. I mean, you can do it with anything. Sometimes I'll do it with chorizo and onions,
Uh-huh.
and you could add herbs to it or whatever. But I love it with potatoes. I love the one
Really?
they do with potatoes. And that one's probably the most common one that you see in Spain. So what you do with that one is you cut the potatoes, but there's a certain way you have to cut the potatoes. You have to take the potato and like you cut part way in and then you have to turn the knife so the edges are all kind of ragged, and then you
All
put them
right.
in a pan with olive oil and cook them in the olive oil, drain off the olive oil, and then you add those potatoes that are cooked to the eggs. That one is so delicious. And you
Wow.
see that one is very common, and they'll eat that for breakfast, lunch, or dinner in Spain. And it's just a favorite. And it looks kind of like an inverted pie. It's kind of dome shaped. It's just a really wonderful. And you cut it into wedges and eat it. I want one right now.
Wow. And plus, I think then when there is so few ingredients, the quality of the ingredients is important, right?
Oh,
So
I
that's
think
why
so.
I really wanted to do a simple recipe that featured the olive oil, and it was delicious. Now, the next dish I tried
Yes.
was the spicy pork kebabs with Moorish flavors. And I did that for a number of reasons. One, pork is my favorite protein. Okay. So that was it. Two, the Mediterranean diet says a little bit of meat is okay.
Right.
But this would be perfect for that, because when you make pork kebabs, you could just have then one kebab, right, with your
Right.
meal, and you can get the excellent flavors. But why I chose that one was you take the, you take all the spices, like the cumin and the coriander and the, you know, what else was in there? Let's see, the paprika, the curry, the red pepper, and you saute them in a dry pan. What is that called? Sauteing in a dry pan? I wasn't sure what I was doing.
Okay, so instead, you don't want to put any oil in the pan, but what
Right.
you're doing, especially with seeds, what you're doing, and you're asking great, great questions, by the way, but what you're doing is you're softening of the seeds so that when you grind them, you're getting more flavor. It really enhances the flavor. So
Okay.
that's why, and you don't want to put any oil. You just do them
No,
dry and
no,
just keep
dry
shaking
pan.
the pan. And like
Mhm.
30 seconds is all you need. But it's really amazing. The way you can check to see how much more flavor you get, take a jar, the jar you've got sitting of your ground cumin,
Mhm.
take it out, put it next to the one that I've told you how you do it in a dry pan after you've ground it. Compare the smell of those two. It's unbelievable, the difference
Wow.
in the aroma. It's just, it will just perfume your whole kitchen. It's so incredible. But one of the things I want to also say is how much I love coriander and cumin together. It's just such a
Okay.
great combination. And all the other spices are great too.
Well, and it's not like that step was a lot of work. It was simple to do.
Right,
Yeah, but I
right.
would just wanted to be very careful. And I said, I wonder why I'm doing this, but I'm going to do it. And
But
then you
one
add it
thing,
to the marinade and you marinate the pork.
yes,
Now I didn't grill it. I cooked it on the stove top in a cast iron
that's okay.
pan
That's great.
because
That's
that's what
fine.
I had. And I, again, you can grill out year round here, but not everybody can do that depending on what their setup is. But they came out delicious and they
Oh,
were
good.
so simple. And I just
And it's
cooked them with
easy.
rice. Yeah,
Right.
with
And
yeah.
the other thing that you could do is if you wanted to do, you can do that with chicken or fish too. So don't think it's just for pork. So it's
All right.
really great with other, and I agree with you that it's just so easy. I mean, I do it, and sometimes if I don't want to light a grill, I have a fireplace that I can grill in, which is really very special. But if you don't, you can also use a ridged pan. So a cast iron ridged pan, or you know, I mean, there's several of them out there, like even a Le Creuset would be great, but just a ridged pan that you heat before. Do you know what I mean? So a cast
No, I
iron
would
ridge
ask you to
grill.
explain that term you just used.
Okay, so it's a cast iron ridge grill. So it looks like little waves. I wish I'm in my kitchen right now, and I wish I could run and get it for you. But it's shaped like the bottom of the pan and is shaped like this, and
Okay.
you just put it right on there, and you'll get some nice grill marks on it. So you can use a ridge grill too. That you would love, and I suggest to everyone to have that in their kitchen. I think it's a really great thing to use. But
And
you
you
want to
can
make
use
sure you
that.
heat that a little bit before.
Okay. And you can use that in your fireplace as well.
No, I was saying
Okay.
I have a fireplace where I can grill right in the fireplace, which is really wonderful. But you know, that's what when I don't want to light the fireplace, I grab my Ridge grill. And for the most part, on Tuesday night, I'm grabbing the Ridge grill. I'm not lighting
Really?
up the fireplace just to. So I use it all the time. So what you did is fine. You could even do that in the oven. That would be fine too. But I think you're going to get a little more flavor from either your cast iron pan or a ridged grill.
Okay. Well, that was
So
a
the ridge
simple.
grill is just a pan that you just put directly right on either your electric or gas stove.
Okay. No, that
Yeah,
was fun to do, and we haven't done any meat so far, you know, in the
yeah.
series because I was trying to introduce more seafood into my diet. But that one was a fun one, and it was delicious. And I think I made 4 kebabs, and I got 3 meals out of it. So
Wow.
that was just fun.
Yeah, that's great.
So then we move on to the Levant, and I chose the dish called zucchini pancakes with scallions and herbs. It's on page 205 in your book. And here's why I chose that one. I had help with that recipe. Last week was a spring break week with my grandchildren. So I have 2 teenage grandchildren, and
Mm-hmm.
one of them's a vegetarian, and the other one likes to cook. So they came over, and I said, "You want to help me cook for this?" I told them it was a television show. And so they did. So I made one that I knew she likes to cook whatever, and I knew the other one would like to eat it. Now I looked up another recipe I almost was going to make that was similar, but it called for saffron strands. Saffron strands? And
Breads,
that put me
yes.
off. I was like,
Yes.
where am I going to get saffron strands? After the fact, I realized I could get them at Kroger. I didn't know
Yes.
that.
Yes.
I thought I had every spice. I don't have saffron strands.
Right.
So I chose one without saffron strands. But this one, what my learning was how you, I call it dejuice. Very, very scientific term there, right? Very cooking term. Dejuice the zucchini. So it called for 3 pounds. 3 pounds? No, 1.5 pounds of zucchini
Okay.
is what I used, which was 3 medium zucchinis for those who need to know. And I actually had to find my kitchen scale because I really try and follow your recipes so that any errors are my problem, not because you told us the wrong thing, because of course you wouldn't do that. But you slice it and put it in a colander and then you let it sit for over an hour. And I was shocked. You salted a little bit, how much juice came out of that.
Right. And it was actually grated, wasn't it?
Yes, I graded it up, and
Yeah.
and I was able to get that. Yeah, you're right. It was graded. I have a picture of
Yes.
that, I think, when we posted the pictures. And then you salt it, and I had to empty the bowl it was sitting in twice.
Wow. Yes.
But even after that, you said then to take the paper towels and wring it out. And I was again, I could not believe how much water or how much juice came out of those
I know.
zucchini. Wow.
But the thing that's great is if you get rid of a lot of that water, you're really going to get the flavor of the zucchini, because zucchini is such a mild vegetable. So that's why you really want to, and it wouldn't work because it would be way too wet. So that's why you want to, get rid of all the liquid.
Well, and
Dejuice it.
Dejuice it. Yeah. Well, and I had made, maybe some other dishes where you saute zucchini and I just, let it slice and sit. Never shredded it before. But even when that was done, you still had to wring it out. But then it was so easy to work with. And this one was fun because, of course, I'd used many of the herbs because it had a number of herbs. But I don't think, again, I've used mint in my tea. I'm not sure I've ever used it in a cooked food before. And just
really,
so this one called for, among other things, mint, right, in it, as well as dill and parsley and some other things that you kind of put all together with that, as well as green onions. Anything else that I can think of that I missed?
No,
it's the feta cheese.
Oh, feta. I mean, all those flavors are just so unbelievable. But you've got, it's so great. Mint, dill, green onions, parsley, and feta. All of those are just flavors that come from that area. And that's kind of what makes those little pancakes. I think those flavors are just so out of this world. I think it's cute. I'm cute or whatever that you're saying you never use mint, because I love it in things. I have some mint on my deck, and what I often do is I'll just tear it and put it into a salad. It just brightens the flavor of things. So try that in a salad and see, because yes, I love it. I love fresh mint in tea. It's so delicious, but and mint and dill together I'm salivating, seriously. I don't think for me it's only 1 o'clock, so I don't think I had enough lunch today. But anyway, I'm thinking I want to make those pancakes, and you've gotten me excited about making actually all 3 of the dishes, so that's great.
To go back to your baby of a cookbook, your first cookbook. Well, I grow 2 kinds of mint in my little pot out front. I'm in a condominium, so I kind of miss my garden, but they're not in bloom yet. And I do remember, now that you mention it, I had a friend growing up who was Lebanese. We had a salad that I would have at her house with mint in it.
Right.
And that was maybe the first time I had mint.
Oh, wow. I also, the very first day of college, I met a really good friend of mine who is Lebanese. And so I was exposed to that. And this, I grew up in New England. Even though I live in California, I grew up in New England. Okay. And I had never, ever had, like the food of Lebanon before. And, I just fell in love with it. But also, like you, I remember the first day they had this wooden bowl and they rubbed the inside with garlic and then made this beautiful salad, and there were pieces of mint in it too. So, and my mother never put mint in the salad, but I love it. I just actually made one last night with a little mint in it. It was so good.
Well, I'll be growing it again, so I'll have to try this. Now, I do have to tell you one thing. Well, when we made 2 to 3 dozen of these little pancakes, And it was good to have, she's 12, my granddaughter that helped me. So it was good to have
That's
Annie
fun.
help me because one of us was on the top of the stove. We did set off the smoke alarm.
Oh, you did?
Well, it's a small space and I have to always remember to put the fan on, and I think I forgot. So by the time we got to the end of the little pancakes, we had probably had too much smoke in the house, but they were delicious. And they were delicious that night. And they were delicious as leftovers too.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
How did you reheat them?
All right. So the thing that I did was I warmed them up a little in the microwave and then I put them in my air fryer.
Oh, interesting. And were they crispy again?
Well, I think it crisped them up.
Oh, good.
It crisped them
Right.
up more than it would have, of course, in the microwave. But how would you recommend you do that?
I would have probably taken a frying pan, a saute pan, put a little
Okay.
bit of extra virgin olive oil in it, and I would have cooked them, just warmed them on each side. And I think you would have crisped them again. Yeah.
I may have made them too not flat enough. So that's a lesson learned.
Okay, right.
And we had fun. We kind of, they weren't as beautiful as I imagined yours would be, but we kind of put them on a tower and we made a little tower of pancakes for our picture.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
But,
and did they like them? Did your grandchildren like them?
they both liked them. Definitely.
Oh, good.
Both liked them. Yeah. They were a hit with the kids. And I wanted a sauce. I wanted to dip them in something. So it was kind of late because we were doing this, I think it was on a Saturday night. Would you have a recommendation for a sauce to maybe dip them in? Or I don't know. I felt like they just might be good with a dipping sauce.
You know, I think what would be really wonderful with those, I mean, you're asking me and I'm just going to throw this out there. I probably would do something with yogurt. I would do yogurt with kind of like a tzatziki. So some yogurt and, tzatziki.
Yes.
With
Never
a little
made
bit
it,
of,
but I love it.
Oh, that's easy too. But that one is another one where you grate the cucumbers and you squeeze them to get rid of the liquid. So now you know how to do that. See, you learn some skills, some cooking skills too by doing this. But I would do kind of a tzatziki sauce. I think that would be really, really wonderful. Or you could go in another direction. And if you wanted, you could make it a little spicy with something called harissa, which is a spicy hot condiment that comes from Morocco and actually North Africa. If you wanted to go in that direction, maybe use some yogurt, even the cucumbers would be good. A little bit of garlic and harissa would be really wonderful. Little lemon maybe, and some salt.
And some salt. So that was good. So that was a lot of fun. And I would try some dipping sauces. So let me ask you this. I have two questions for you. Fingers crossed. And I don't even say, I say this because it's two. I've had two vaccines and now there's a B. So it's peace and two. So
right.
if I get to travel this year, yes.
Yes.
Turkey is on our list. Some friends and I want to visit Istanbul. So if we go there, and I know you've been there, what should I be sure to try?
Okay, so a couple things that I absolutely love. I mean, first of all, what pops into my head is pide, Pide, and it's so good. I want that right now so much. But it's like a little pizza, and it's oval in shape usually, and sometimes they've got green onions on the top. Sometimes green onions that are sauteed. Sometimes it's with other kinds of onions. They put all kinds of toppings on them. It can be herbs on the top. I love pide. I love it. The other thing that I would say that I wouldn't miss is something called menti, M-A-N-T-I. It's a little, like a little ravioli that is filled with lamb and also mint. So in garlic. I think it's got mint in it. I'm trying to remember. The recipe is in the book. Now that is a little bit more adventuresome for you to maybe jump into making that one, but maybe you'd get your grandchildren to help you with that. But that I would not miss the menti and the pide. Those are things and what I love also there, everything is so fresh and so delicious. So many vegetables. There's all kinds of these little salads that they make that I love so much. I mean, I can't even tell you. There's one that they do with red peppers, roasted red peppers and tomatoes, and it's a little bit spicy. I mean, there's all kinds that they make. So I'd have to even look through my book to remember. I think I even wrote some to you last night, and I can't remember. But Oh, everything, those little skewers that they make, and the food is out of this world. I remember being on the street and having this street food, and I wondered why people were just lined up, and they made mussels that they stuffed, and then they did some kind of like little, this was a while ago, coating on the outside, and they deep fried them. I can't even, those were so delicious. The street food is amazing. It's really fabulous. The food is over the top, and you can eat everywhere. It's so, yeah, it's just such a wonderful place. When I say you can eat everywhere, it's completely safe. It's just Turkey. It's just an amazing country. I've been twice. And one time I sailed from Bodrum to Marmaris with some friends. We rented a sailboat, and that we spent 2 weeks in the Mediterranean. And we'd sail into these little ports where we would get things like menti, or things that are not as easy to get someplace else. But and then the other time I just traveled all around, and I will never forget that both trips were incredible. Loved Turkey. Can't say enough about it. But I would say the same if you asked me about any other country in the Mediterranean. So I just have to be honest. I really love every country that surrounds the Mediterranean.
Well, if I get to some of the other ones, I'll reach out to you. But that one is on our list for this fall. Fingers crossed or uncrossed or whatever. Yeah. So if we were to look at this book, and I know what'd you say? How many? 26 books? How many books? Cookbooks? Or
I've written 17 cookbooks.
Okay.
And I wrote several of them were for Williams Sonoma, but I really did write 9 books on my own, and all of them have been about the Mediterranean. Even the recipes are very much influenced, even in the Williams Sonoma books. Those were earlier in my career, but they still have a slant towards the Mediterranean. I cooked at Chez Panisse for 5 years, so that has really influenced, even though I'm a girl who grew up in New England. That's the food that I relate to. I grew up with a mom my mother was a professional cook, my grandfather and great grandmother. So I'm 4th-generation professional cook. And I don't even know, it could go further back than that. But I grew up with a mother and grandparents on both sides my grandparents had farms, and my mother we didn't have a farm, but we had a big garden, and my mother was a great gardener. So we would have 10 vegetables on the table. And honestly, she loved vegetables. And I think that's probably why I kind of steered towards the Mediterranean.
So you said you've been on the diet for 26 years. You've probably been on it your whole life.
No, that's since 85. So Is that 35 years?
Wow.
I can't believe I worked at Chez Panisse 35 years ago. To be honest, I still feel like I'm 35. But anyway, but yeah, I've been on that diet for a long time. And that's, I love and I relate to countries around the world that use olive oil as their cooking medium. And as I said, I really could drink olive oil. I love it. And for me, it's the way I like to cook. It's the flavor I like. Even though I studied professionally in France, I got a master chef diploma with Madeleine Kem, and I spent 1 year with her. It was all about cream and butter. And I never, even as a kid, I didn't like rich food. I never liked it. I am a person who loves olive oil. So yeah, I'm in the olive oil camp.
I am. I have the book. So those were the 3 that I tried. As we close out, is there anything else you should think I should try in the book, or any other closing thoughts you want to share with us about from tapas to meze and how we can all make the Mediterranean diet more accessible to the rest of us?
Okay, there's 2 things I just thought of right away in terms of dishes, and they're pretty easy. You have to try. Oh, actually, I thought of another one, but you have to try. It's the feta with dill, mint, cucumbers, and red onions. Oh, it's so good. So if you like lamb or even a pork chop, it's something to serve on the side and to dip into that. I absolutely love. It's from the Greek chapter. The other thing from the Greek chapter I love is the spinach skordalia. So it's with walnuts and spinach and of course olive oil and garlic. It's so delicious and really easy to make. And the other thing, I'm just thinking of simpler things. I keep going towards the Eastern Mediterranean, but the other thing that I really love is it's something called hitipiti, and I love saying it actually.
Say it again.
Hitipiti.
Okay, I'm not even going to try that.
HTIPITI. So it's feta and it's easy with a little bit of garlic that you just put in the food processor, but get really good feta. And you're just going to do it with some lots of paprika and a good sweet paprika, but then also some hot pepper. And so it's got that. I love dishes that are very simple, but they end up being complex because of the flavors. I love something that's an easy dish to make, but that it's sweet, hot, salt, all at the same time. And I love it when it just kind of assaults your senses. Anyway.
Assaults our senses. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Joanne, I just can't tell you how much fun this was. And thank you for walking me through some of these things. And I just learned a lot while I cooked from your book today. And I will have to try those other recipes. And your latest book is, did you say The Kitchen Gypsy?
Kitchen Gypsy, recipes and stories from a lifelong romance with food.
Oh, beautiful.
That's me.
So thank you. Thank you, The Kitchen Gypsy, for sharing us your insight today.
Oh, I also wanted to tell you, Mary Angela, there's hundreds of recipes on my website, joanneweir.com. And then also I do a lot of live events on Instagram and also Facebook. So I'd love to see everyone there too. And I'd love to see you there.
Oh, I think the first thing I did was look you up so that I could learn a little bit more about you. And that's how I knew you were a teacher. And I'm a teacher, but I'm like, oh, the teacher's going to be teaching the teacher. But I'm a teacher cooking, obviously. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Cooking Up a Conversation and for teaching us a few things about tapas and meze. Thanks, Joanne.
Thanks so much, Mary Angela. I love being here. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.